This week on the show, we talk about the fallout from the Northern California wildfires, advertising in the cannabis space, and our cannabis strain names, the one thing preventing federal cannabis legalization. My name's Tim Stromble. Welcome to Rooted. Welcome to the show. You know, we've all heard these names before. Green crack, purple monkey balls, Girl Scout cookies, Alaskan thunder. I could go on. They're all names of different cannabis strains on the market today, and believe it or not, they just get crazier and more ridiculous than the ones I just said. What I was thinking about the other day, and my question to you is, are cannabis strain names the one thing holding back the legalization of cannabis? I mean, how do you get mainstream voters behind strains like Alaskan thunder or Zombie Killer OG? And can we, or should we, try to be better as an industry to make the idea of cannabis more approachable to non-users? That is what I want to discuss in this week's Two Sides. On one hand, the cannabis movement has long been tied to the counterculture of mainstream society, a lot due to its illegality and the stigma associated with cannabis that was created in the early 20th century and has persisted to this day. That counterculture environment has fostered creativity and innovation while at the same time fostering a rebellious attitude that has both helped the industry to get where it is today and at times, I would argue, prevented the industry from progressing as fast as it could. Now, despite the tough road, the cannabis industry is moving forward, and I think that many cannabis strain names are just a part of cannabis culture and represent how unique the cannabis space really is. I mean, in that way, it makes no sense to change any of the names or to even think it hurts the industry in any way, right? On the other hand, the cannabis industry is on the verge of acceptance by mainstream culture. I mean, it's not quite there yet, but many think it's right on the cusp. But would the movement be happening quicker if these crazy and sometimes downright offensive strain names were changed to something more approachable and less scary to mainstream society or even the older generation who's looking to get back into cannabis or who's looking to try cannabis for the first time? Now, I know that many cannabis strain names are very old and are ingrained in the industry so deeply that the thought of changing them is like the thought of Tom Brady winning another Super Bowl. We all root against it, and we're all collectively hating the idea of it. Now, I'm not talking about those names because I realize that for the most part, they're not that crazy. But names like green crack, LSD, buddy f***er, those names don't carry any value to the industry. And I would argue that they actually hurt the movement by making cannabis growers and consumers just look dumb. I mean, there's no other way to put it when you're ordering Alaskan thunder. Personally, I think we can do better as an industry to represent the movement in a way we can be more proud of, in a way we can continue to ingratiate the industry to mainstream America. I mean, once the flower is cultivated and harvested, the name doesn't impact the flavor or the feeling when you use it, right? So why don't we sprinkle on a little dose of social responsibility to the bowl the next time we think of a new name and start acting like the adults and responsible citizens we want the world to view us as? Or I guess we can keep acting like a bunch of 13-year-olds who think naming a strain cat piss is funny and creative. But that's just my opinion. What do you think? Do these strain names help or hurt the evolution of the industry? Go to our Facebook page and comment your thoughts, and we'll share the results in a future episode. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the show. Now let's get to business. Of course, our business segment is brought to you by the folks over at PR420. If you've got news PR420 wants to help you share it, hit them up at pressrelease420.com today to get started. You know, one of the most interesting parts of the cannabis industry for me is following things like the evolution of media creation, advertising, and the locations where both of those lines intersect, and you, as the end viewer of this show, you finally see an advertisement, like you just did. Now, unlike just about any other industry in the world, the cannabis industry is very limited as to where advertising can be played, for reasons like federal legalization, the lack of outlets to display ads, and even the lack of quality ad content altogether. So you can see there's a big issue here. Well, one company is taking on that issue and has built the technology to help the cannabis industry solve that problem. That company's name is Adistry, and they help you streamline the way you buy or sell advertising so you can get more done faster. Now, Adistry just recently announced its new partner program for publishers, which is a great development because now you can combine your digital media kit with real-time tracking. Plus, their campaign management setup makes it easy to keep track of your campaigns, collect necessary assets, and communicate with your clients in one centralized location. Now I know this is a business to business topic, so many of you are pretty bored, but this is like that show How It's Made, because you're seeing how cannabis industry companies are finding ways to advertise to you. Think about that the next time you see an advertisement. Now I'm someone who loves free trials, or anything free for that matter, but who doesn't? Love free stuff. So I'm also a fan of Adistry's 30-day free trial, which you can learn more about for yourself by heading to Adistry's site, adistry.com. Go check them out. We'll be right back. Welcome back into the show. This week on the Rooted Podcast, we talk with Evan Nison, whose many cannabis industry hats include co-founder and CFO of Whoopi and Maya, founder and CEO of NisonCo, a cannabis industry PR company, and he's also the youngest member of the NORML Board of Directors. Evan joins the show to talk about working public relations in the cannabis industry, being a high-ranking member of NORML, and some relevant current events surrounding the cannabis space. Evan is an outspoken member of the cannabis community who's worked on all kinds of initiatives, and he provides some great insight into a number of different topics throughout the show. You're not going to want to miss this one. Here's a sneak peek.
Something is very likely going to need to happen for Congress to act, and that might be a raid. I think Sessions raiding the right type of company right now, well, it would be incredibly unjust and unfair, and history would look horribly on it. Could potentially be the best thing that ever happened in history for legalization. It's just hard to say exactly how that's going to unfold. But Congress was, or sort of the federal government was forced to act during alcohol prohibition, or they wouldn't have. So there's no reason to think that there's not going to have to be something that sort of breaks that, like is the straw that sort of breaks the camel's back on that. And that might be Jeff Sessions.
Don't forget to download and subscribe to the Rooted Podcast on iTunes or SoundCloud to get the latest episodes. And leave us a nice review if you like the show. We'd appreciate it. Lastly, before we get you out of here, we have to share with you our favorite thing this week, which comes to us up from Northern California. Now, as many of you know, a large segment of California was devastated by wildfires at the end of 2017, and Northern California was perhaps hit the hardest. That's not my favorite thing this week. Let me tell you what is. Out of those ashes, we are seeing a very resilient people who are working together to rebuild what they've lost, and the cannabis industry is no exception. Now, I first heard about this story a while back, but I wanted to make sure you heard about it too. There's a cultivation in Northern California called Frost Flower Farms, which many of you may have heard of. It's female-owned and operated and was continuing to grow in size until the wildfires hit. Ashley, a single mom and the owner and cultivator at Frost Flower Farms, was awoken in the middle of the night by a neighbor who told her she needed to get out of the house because of the fires. She quickly grabbed her kid and immediately got out of there, escaping death by minutes while losing just about everything else to the fire, including almost all of her grow operation and equipment. Of course, Ashley was devastated, but the cannabis community wasn't about to let her down, and through fundraising efforts, donations, and hard work, it looks like she's on her way back to being on her feet. One of my favorite parts of this story, and there are many, comes from a company we've already talked about on the show before, Green Bros Inc., who manufactures harvesting equipment for the industry. Green Bros heard that Ashley's 420 dry trimmer was completely destroyed in the fires. They then drove from Southern California to Northern California to have the CEO of the company personally drop off a new replacement trimmer free of charge. These things retail for around $10,000. I couldn't believe it. Overall, I continue to be impressed about how tight-knit the cannabis community is and the support you all are constantly showing each other in tough times. That's why this is my favorite thing this week. Cheers to all of your spirit, camaraderie, and consideration in trying times and to hopefully brighter days up ahead. That's going to do it for us on the show. Quick reminder to hit up the site stayrooted.com to check out more show content, like our social pages, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Until next week, I'm Tim Stromble, reminding you to work hard, be humble, and as always, stay rooted.